afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining us. Welcome to TLMI's printTHINK webinar series. We appreciate you joining us for this one in our automation and innovation session. We have one more after this, so don't forget to also join us for that one. And without further ado, I'll turn you over to Doug Bartlett. Thank you.
Thank you, Lene. Appreciate that. Welcome, everybody. Welcome back for those of you who've been on these before. Like Lene said, we're on our third of 4 sessions for automation innovation. Today, we're lucky enough to have 2 suppliers with us, both press manufacturers that are going to talk specifically more around the automation for the hybrid and the front end process and workflow. We're going to ask you to put your questions in the section on the webinar block there, and we'll gather them all together and ask the questions at the end. So we'll take it on from here, and let's see. We'll start with Jim Nearly from Gallus. If you want to take it from here, we'll hear yours first, and then we'll go to Nilpeter.
Okay. And welcome and hello. My name is Jim Nearly. Work for Heidelberg USA. We are a partner with Gallus with this Gallus label fire press I'll be showing. I'm a digital application specialist, and I'll be presenting a few of the automated and innovative functions of the Gallus label fire 340, which is driven by the Heidelberg printTHINK digital front end. A quick overview of the label fire 340. It is a hybrid press. It has a 7-color plus digital white print unit, as well as standard modules from the Gallus ECS 340 press. Getting all of these different print units to sync up. We have distortion factors for flexo, non-distortion for digital. We also have screen units, laminates, coatings, foil on this press. How we organize this all together and control it is done through the components of the printTHINK DFE label fire front end. And the 3 portions I will be concentrating on today are going to be the printTHINK cockpit for file handling, PDF toolbox for variable data, and the printTHINK portal, which is a function we use for estimating of the 7-color process. When we convert spot colors into the 7-color, we need to know how we can estimate these jobs out and how we go about pricing them. The first thing I will touch on is the printTHINK cockpit and functions of imposition, how we handle spot colors, and automated marks that we've added in here, which include marks for the external separations which aren't printing in the digital unit. There is a comprehensive and intuitive imposition and layout designed specifically for the label market inside Cockpit when you buy this function. We've got some basic imposition as well as even CFF2 support for nested stepping. Along with this stepping, we have interactive marks that are applied to both the digital side of the press and the non-digital print stations. How and where a spot color prints, whether it's going to be a digital or whether it's going to be a flexo or foil station, is controlled with job parameters or through editable custom color libraries that we can build from a job or build ahead of time. Through a pull down function, if we designate a color as external, it will print in the flexo unit. If we designate a color as print unit, it will print in the digital. And if we designate a color for special printing, it will print in the digital white, which is a very opaque white and is the 8th color of the digital unit. Once we have designated these colors, they can be saved into custom libraries through an export function from inside a job, or as I said, these can be set up ahead of time so that we can fully automate this function for repeatability. Once we have decided where these colors are going to be printing, which station, Flexo 1, 2, digital unit, so on and so forth, we have to control the registration. We use a Sensotech registration control unit, and we designate what is going to be the start code or station 1, and we can have that either be the digital unit or we can have that be one of the Flexo units. The way it is controlled is choosing digital print, and if we choose master, that puts the start code in the digital black. The other colors then follow on an on-off coloring scenario. So you get your Flexo 1, Flexo 2, then digital black, and then so on and so forth. If we set the digital print unit as the slave, the Flexo first station becomes the registration unit, and then everything after that is on an on-off function to control the stepping. In the beginning, we could only use the digital unit as the control, and we were experiencing a lot of wasted substrates because we had to go through the press basically 2 full rotations before we could line up the registration. Now that we can use the first Flexo station, we can go ahead, set this up, and we can get to registration much quicker and with less substrate wastage. The output of these external colors, or the non-digital separations, is also contained in the same space where we would go and hit submit to submit the files for digital to be ripped and sent to the digital press. If we choose output external separations and click OK, any of the colors that have been set up for external are separated into PDF files as separated PDFs and are exported with all the related marks, as well as an internal tagline with job numbering, date, time, color call out, and you can actually add in your own custom text in there if need be. These files then can be sent right to plate making or screen making. They are undistorted. They are separated PDF files that can then be used to, as I said, make the Flexo plates, hot stamping, or screen files. The next component I want to touch on is going to be our printTHINK PDF toolbox for variable data. With this plugin for Acrobat, 2 of the features we get are 2 versions of variable data, full variable data and industrial IVDP. I'm going to concentrate on the IVDP for a few main reasons. One, it is used for doing variable text, variable codes, numbering, barcodes, complex text variables, and the big benefit with this is the rendering of these files. The fixed part, or the non-variable portion of the file, is ripped just like a regular file and is sent over to the press. The variable information, however, is transferred through a database. The CSV file is copied over to the press itself, where the label file digital unit actually renders the variable data on the fly. This gives us much better throughput. And another big benefit with this is it's included in the standard version of the software. So there is no upcharge to get the base version of this variable data. It also doesn't require the purchase of the Performance Plus renderer if we were going to be doing full variable data. So a lot of benefits to using it. And I'm going to show how this interface works. It's rather quick and easy to implement. In Adobe, we go to the printTHINK plugins, down to printTHINK 2020, to barcode and VDP editor. We select that we're going to be doing IVDP, and we simply browse to the CSV folder or the CSV file to get our placeholders. The placeholders are just the columns that are in this CSV file. This CSV file has a row for numbering as well as a number for QR codes. I come into the file, I highlight which placeholder or column in the CSV I want to use, in this case, the numbering 1 column. When I highlight it, it enters it into the bottom of this section, and I simply click on it and drag it into position where I want it to go. We then have onboard tools to control the attributes, the color, the font, the scaling, and for the desired graphic intent. For a barcode, I simply click barcode. it is going to pull in the barcode information from the CSV file, and I simply drag, again, the graphics from the interface to the section in the file I want them to go. I then control their coloring, scaling, and placement. And in this case, I've quickly added these two different variables. There are 3,000 variables in the CSV file. We also have onboard quality control here. If I click IVDP after I've applied everything, I can come to the bottom and hit check, and it will run through all the different variables to make sure that my text boxes are large enough and my barcode boxes are large enough to hold the variable graphics, both in their height and width. And it will let me know down the bottom if all of them are okay. In this case, they are. We also have the ability to, under the data record preview section, I can simply scroll through all of the different variables and visually see them change in the file at this point. So even before I submit the file, I can check that all the variables have been placed and are working correctly. This file is simply submitted to our printTHINK system, just like any other PDF. It's just saved as a standard PDF out of Acrobat. Internally, it has all the information in pathing. We impose it like a standard PDF. When I click submit and specify how many labels are needed, in this case, I'm going to say 3,000, click OK, and it's sent to the RIP. Here we see the file in our print queue after it's been processed. Down on the right-hand side is the total time to process this file. It was 3,000 records, 7 colors processed in 24 seconds. Because the variables are done on the fly on the press, we have this large increase in ripping time. The full variable data uses a standard RIP to create. In this case, it would create 3,000 variable files. In this case, we have this industrial version, which is much faster and much quicker. The last component I want to touch on is a feature we call the printTHINK portal. This is used as an estimator for the 7-color process. There is an interface with just a simple web browser. We also have a quick link in Cockpit itself, so you can go right from bringing your job in to doing the estimating. And again, this can be done up front before the files are ready to print. After we log into printTHINK portal, we select the appropriate ink consumption upload section. In this case, I do have 2 of them in here. One is for standard CMYK and spot color work. The one that says multi is for files that are RGB. We can submit LAB or RGB files to this also. In this case, I have a CMYK file with spot colors. I upload the files by clicking the drag file here section. That opens up a browser, or I can just simply drag my PDF from my desktop or wherever they're located onto this drag file here section. The file gets processed through a standard production template or workflow, ensuring the accurate results. It's actually going through the exact same workflow it's going to be going through when it goes to press to process the file. The results it gives me after processing, it presents itself in a detailed report, giving me my area coverage as well as the ink consumption after it's been broken down into CMYK, orange, green, violet, as well as the delta E values for spot colors. So at this point, I can determine if the spot color will be at a delta E value acceptable for us. If not, or if I need to make any changes, or if one of these spot colors needs to print in a Flexo station, I simply, from the same interface, can come down to the bottom, and there's a pull down, and I can set it to no ink. This will now exclude this jojoba color, spot color, from the 7-color conversion. I click recalculate colors. It reprocesses the file, and on the left, I have the original where they were all being converted. and how much of the 7-color I'm going to be using. On the right is the same file leaving the jojoba spot color as a flexo. I can see there are different amounts of the different digital colors being used. With this report and the information it gives me as far as how much ink in milliliters it's going to be using, down here on the bottom, we have, and we can provide you with, or you can make up your own, it's just a simple Excel spreadsheet where we enter the milliliters of ink being used, the cost of those, whether it's your end cost, whether it's the cost you're going to be giving to your customers, and it will give us our ink cost per label. This way I can estimate whether this job will run more efficiently on a conventional press, or if it's going to run more efficiently and cost effective in a digital environment. Those are the 3 topics I wanted to cover. Again, my name is Jim Nearly. Below is my email address, and back along.
Okay, thanks, Jim. Appreciate that. I know it's hard to jam all that into 15 minutes. So if anybody has any questions, wants to go into it in more detail, please contact Jim directly. Okay, so next we're going to move on to Nilpeter, and they're going to be represented by Screen and talking about their hybrid and automation pieces. So at this point, I want to hand it over to Mark Schlemme and take it away.
Hey everybody, yeah, my name is Mark Schlemme. I'm Vice President of Marketing for Screen Americas. If you can see my screen, crossing my fingers, I'm pretty sure you can see my screen. You'll also see a picture there of Charlie Brown. Charlie is our product manager for the label and packaging segment for digital printing. I see that he's also joined us, so he will be available at the end if we have any questions. So let me jump in. So along the kind of the same title and idea, to look at really the title, workflow optimization and automation components, but probably a better word of the way what I'll talk about here is going to be characteristics, right? So workflow optimization and automation characteristics of both digital and hybrid printing. So Screen's background is digital, and I thought just to give you a quick little background of why Screen and Nilpeter. So Screen and Nilpeter have partnered for the digital print component or the segment of the label and packaging markets in both the U.S. and Europe and Japan, as there's partnerships in Japan as well, especially on the engineering side. And really what that is about was more power for your market. So really market synergy, taking, Nilpeter, their history in your market, over 100 years in the flexo and packaging industry, Screen over 100 years in the graphic arts and printing, but probably not as well known in your markets. And really that's the reason for our partnership, to take what Nilpeter has done so well for so many years in flexo and what Screen has done so well for so many years in digital printing and combine them for you in the market. A little bit about Screen, not much of a commercial, but people in this industry continuously say, who is Screen? They maybe know us from some pre-press, but Screen is a global organization based in Japan. Really, graphics is just one part of our business, although it really is our heritage. Our heritage in digital print, which is what we'll talk about today, is in what's called the high-speed web inkjet market. So that is, in that market, direct mail, publishing, transactional, commercial print, that's considered narrow web as well, although in that market, it's really a 20-inch web press. But we're also a top 3 market share for in the inkjet classification for UV label. So our L350 SI engine, which is either the standalone engine or the engine that sits in the Nilpeter hybrid configuration, is a 13-inch narrow web UV inkjet press. And then a number 1 position, this is where you guys may know us, is in the computer to plate pre-press solution. So in that market, we've often gone to market with partners such as Agfa, Fuji, Kodak historically. So in the graphic arts for 75 years now, worldwide, over 50 years in the US, a heavy R&D and manufacturing company, not a lot of marketing, only 8% in marketing and sales. The rest of that is in engineering and manufacturing. There are other businesses for Screen, and the only reason why this is important is because of the 3 components. You see the little graphic with the 3 circles. We do play in other markets where we are the manufacturer of manufacturing equipment. So we don't make semiconductors, for example. If you see the first example, we make the machines that are used by semiconductor manufacturers. We don't make flat panel displays for your iPhone or for your touchscreen tablets. We make the coding machinery that manufacturers of those solutions use. We're a leader in PCB and as well as moving into markets such as medical technology and battery as well. So strong market share in each one of those. The point and why it's important is because each of those are really leveraging the same core technologies. Surface processing technology, so the ability to process a printed surface across all these, and that's essentially what all these are, is a jetted printed surface, whether you're making semiconductor chips, whether you're making flat panel displays, or whether you're making printed circuit boards. Image processing, right? So the ability, or the expertise and the history in processing very high quality images, right? So image reproduction and direct imaging technology. That's the jetting of fluids to these surfaces. So it's those three components that cross all our businesses and really represent the bar that we try to reach across all our technology. So again, characteristics that we would talk about. So I won't take you into a demo, Jim, great demo. But when you hear me talking about the characteristics of an automated and intelligent workflow across Flexo and digital, I think you'll hear kind of some of what Jim was showing you, and it's what we would show you with our solution as well. So our workflow solution is called Equios, right? So it's a workflow solution that is going on 10 plus years under that brand name, 20 years for screen and digital prepress. But these are the characteristics that you, as you're talking to your partners for digital or hybrid solutions, these are the workflow characteristics that really are going to be critical in this digital world, which is all about, it's not necessarily about short run anymore. It can stretch into long run, but it is about multiple jobs, automating workflow from storefront or CSRs to the press, quick pickups, and even into variable. Short runs maybe as far as customization or multiple SKUs for the same product. So even though it might be a long run, it's kind of broken down into multiple short runs. So these characteristics just happen to be characteristics that are true of the Equios solution, which drives both the digital press and the plates for Nilpeter Flexo. So certainly any solution should be scalable, right? So it should be open to integration across an enterprise using a client server architecture. So Equios fits that bill. Other solutions do as well. What you want is the ability to put seats or visibility into your workflow across your enterprise. It needs to be an estimating. There needs to be visibility into workflow in the CSR. It needs to have visibility in a seat and pre-press and at the press as well. And you need that scalability and that integration without constantly adding additional licenses, because you need to change your workflow as you go. You need hot folder support, right? So if you're working with other pre-press solutions, you need the ability to push workflows that are automated via just straightforward hot folder input. And really, you need the same ripping the same information for both Flexo or for digital print. Characteristic for your workflow across Flexo and digital, it needs to be proven. So there are different print engines that are interpreting the PDF that your customers are going to be giving you, that you'll be generating. Screen is the largest OEM in the graphic arts space for the Adobe PDF print engine exchange, the standard. It's called APPE. We have been an Adobe OEM for 30 plus years, over 4,000 seats installed worldwide in the graphic arts space, supporting those, developing new features, new applications across a range of the graphic arts, from commercial print, Flexo to direct mail. Characteristic is that it needs to be robust. Two examples that I've listed here, and they're both similar to what Jim talked about. So CXF color management is a standard in the industry. You need to be able to match spot colors from flexo to digital. Take that digital press to simulate the spot colors that are on the flexo, and really you need that to be at the RIP base, so you're not doing your own custom color management offline. It's actually RIP based. Iquios also features print simulation that's RIP based, accessible via clients that are in these seats across your enterprise. So print simulation, the ability to RIP a job before it goes to press, to view it for print integrity, but also to do ink estimating, troubleshooting. So ink estimating and print simulation needs to be a characteristics of your hybrid workflow or your digital standalone workflow in a flexo mixed environment. Of course, it needs to be powerful. You need a RIP-based page composition for both black variable and full color variable, right? So like Jim talked about, you don't want to be building 6,000 labels offline and then pushing those in the press to the print engine. You want to RIP the static information and then compose the pages on the fly with the variable information coming out of a database. You should look for that support in any workflow solution in a mixed environment. And then probably what we see this even more and more now is you really need to be simple, right? So workforce acquisition, workforce retainment, cross-training is becoming more and more important. You need that simple interface, that ease of use across the platforms. You need the ability to profile substrates one time and then have that automation built in. So when the new job comes in and the operator is loading substrates, you're not reprofiling, that all those data sets and setups for ink, for media are all built into the RIP, automated, and set themselves up after the initial profile. So that becomes critical as you're adding operators, as you're moving operators, adding operators to shifts, or even into the environment itself. So those are really the characteristics. As you talk to your partners, certainly talk to us about that. We can show you all these features in the Iquios solution, driving both flexo and digital. But really, these would be the characteristics that are important for you, regardless of the manufacturer that you're talking to. And I will finish up. That's it.
Okay, great. Thanks, Mark. I appreciate that. I do have some questions here to ask. I guess I'll start with you, Mark, and then this first one anyway, I think probably would be good to get an answer from both of you. Jim, if you're still there, so I assume you are. First of all, what key factors should be considered when deciding to go hybrid or flexo or just digital? I mean, what's sort of the major key points that you need to think about when you're going into that decision?
I see Charlie's on the line and he is self-muted, so he may have some ideas, or he might be kicking me virtually under the table if I don't answer this quite like he would. But what we see is as when we've worked on the hybrid projects that we've worked on, really you need an expertise in both the flexo and in the digital world, and those aren't also necessarily always the same companies, right? So you've got some manufacturers on the flexo side, and they're kind of open to any digital platform, and they'll position it as a simple plug and play. That can work, but really that is leaving a lot of that engineering up to the company itself to do that integration. So what's really been successful for us is the ability at the manufacturing level for both Nilpeter and Screen to do that engineering and integration at the factory, and then that they bring that expertise into the field. So even though we're two companies, each with their expertise on the platform, that integration at the R&D level and at the factory level drives success for the customer. I see Charlie is unmuted himself, so he might have something to add.
Okay. Charlie, can you hear us?
Yeah, sorry. I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I think that it's just the along with what Mark is saying, is that's a very, very unique partnership we have with Nilpeter, and really, the proof is is really in the synergy between the two, more than anything else. And I think
Okay.
the expertise that we both bring to the table, not to be repetitive to Mark, but that truly is quite a difference, I think, in the market.
Okay. Jim, you want to add to that as well?
Sure. And in fact, I think Mark kind of touched on it, where digital is growing so much that it truly isn't just for short runs anymore. And in that case, by having a hybrid press, it just allows you much more flexibility and the ability to run longer runs and keep the price down just by moving things to one station to another. Sometimes jobs print more economically long run in digital and versus the flexo side. The ability to be able to use common tooling also, so that you could print one portion of a job in digital hybrid using some of the same tooling that you use on your standard flexo press. So.
Okay, good. That kind of leads into the second question. What are the advantages and disadvantages of moving from flexo to digital? Jim, you want to start that one?
Actually, another Mark kind of touched on before is you have these two knowledge bases where in the past never really crossed, where you had the flexo and conventional printing, you've got digital printing, different departments, different mindsets. We now need pressmen to become more graphic interested, or graphic supported, and the graphics team needs to become a little bit more knowledgeable of the press and how this all integrates together. So that seems to be, as far as I'm concerned, one of the trickiest things. You need the right people in the right positions to drive all of these types of hybrid presses.
Okay, Mark or Charlie, you want to add to that?
Yeah, I mean, I would agree that, it definitely is a different, it's a different landscape for the workforce out there, with the experience, because, realistically, you don't need a, flexo press operator, monitoring the digital press to see what it's doing. So what are you going to do while that press is running? We have some customers that have taken a very I would say a hybrid operator approach, where they actually have operators that are doing the pre-press and running the presses in conjunction, or able to run multiple presses at a facility, at the same time, because of getting the job started, prepping for the next job, and getting material going as you're running. So it's definitely a different mindset, I think, and it allows for different types of flexibility, from the converter standpoint.
Okay. Let's see, converting. Let's see, how are converters defining crossover point, and what are they finding? I assume the crossover point is sort of the length of run. Where does that stand today? I guess, Jim, you want to start that one?
That question is becoming harder and harder to answer. It really depends on the individual customer, how much they're paying for their substrates, what their overhead costs are, on whether it's economical to run and where it's running. That cutoff of short run digital, long run conventional, it's getting blurred on a quarterly basis. It seems every innovation that comes out from the different press manufacturers just keeps blurring that line. So it really comes down to how creative you are in marketing, how creative you are with sales, and the type of work you're doing.
Okay. Charlie, anything to add?
Yeah, I mean, I would agree that it's the type of work, the application, what you're actually producing. We generally see that anywhere from, for a standalone unit, standalone digital press, we'll see something, in the, I don't know, I would say 25 to 35,000 linear feet range. And then I would say as we start to go above that, that's where hybrid can start to make a lot more sense, because you're actually getting a finished product off the press. You're not printing roll to roll and then finishing offline, or nearline or something like that. So we definitely see things along those lines. But I would agree. I mean, the definition is a moving target. One of our larger customers in sites in Europe just published information on, producing a 1 million label job in under 5 days, where it was one of their first large label, and just for their perspective, where they see the same thing. They see that minimum or digital order, the definition of that changing rapidly.
Okay. This one's specifically for Nilpeter and Screen. What is Screen's corporate philosophy about R&D, manufacturing, and partnering?
You want me to take that, Charlie?
Sure.
Our R&D for screen is primarily based in Kyoto. Manufacturing is in Japan as well, but with some distribution globally. Nilpeter is in Amsterdam, I believe that's right. I'll probably get that completely wrong. But with Screen also has engineering in Cambridge in the UK. So in a packaging application. So I don't know if this is directly answering your question, but I guess the philosophy is R&D and manufacturing is at corporate under Screen Graphics, and then the subsidiaries are really service, installation, support, and sales. The philosophy, I guess, that's why I did show the slide about our other markets. So semiconductor manufacturing, flat panel and glass manufacturing, printed circuit board. The philosophy really is to build to environments that are that can have zero downtime, that have robust requirements for repeatability and for precision. These are solutions that are living in clean rooms, driving highly technical precision solutions. And it's that philosophy, or that's the bar to which the graphics division is building their equipment as well, because they're sharing many of the same engineers and often even same manufacturing facilities, not necessarily lines, but facilities. So the philosophy is really driven by that high-end precision technology approach to capital equipment, regardless of the market that we're selling into.
Is there anything?
Sorry to ramble. Sorry.
It's okay. Is there anything unique about the R&D relationship between Screen and Nilpeter? I mean, how much? I'm sure there's a lot of interaction there, but is there anything unique about how you guys work together to develop a hybrid press?
Charlie, do you have maybe a thought on that?
Yeah, I mean, I would say that, I would say what's potentially unique that I see in the market is that from the ground up, the integration, is basically a highly engineered approach by both engineering teams from Denmark to Kyoto, where it's not just I would say, as we see with other suppliers, things are just adapting to different different modules or off-the-shelf components, or one of many engines that are supported. We uniquely only work with Nilpeter and only have integrated with Nilpeter for the reasons that the Marcus kind of spelled out, as far as and I think that's what really makes the approach that we have very unique, and allows us to achieve the quality, repeatability, uptime, all those aspects together.
Okay, great, thank you. Let's see, with regards to variable data, what colors can be used in IVDP, which looks like it's a Gallus question here.
Okay. Yeah, with the IVDP, again, it's one of the two versions that runs on the fly. Because it's dictated by the digital print head, it can run in any of those 7 colors. Now, variable barcodes in orange probably doesn't work, or in yellow doesn't work, but you can do it in black, CMYK, orange, green, violet. So any of those 7 colors, or even white for that matter, can control the IVDP.
And can you do multicolor? So if it's something that's a 4-color processing,
color then would be the full version of VDP, which is also done with that plugin in Acrobat, which then allows us the full onboard graphics, and that's where it's more RIP intensive, and you definitely need we have another version of the RIP that's the Performance Plus, we call it, to handle this large ripping.
Okay, looks like the last question here, again for Gallus. What is the speed of the label fire press?
Currently, the speed is up to, let me just double check, 70 meters a minute, so 230 feet. And that is available with the variable data also. So we can run the IVDP and the standard variable data at that full speed at 230 feet a minute.
Okay, great. All right, well, again, thank you guys for presenting today. I know it was kind of rushed and short, so anybody has any questions, please contact these guys. I'm sure you can get a lot more information on that. We are going to have one more session in the automation innovation theme. We think it's going to be in the next 2 weeks, but timing is getting a little shaky here, so we'll be letting you know when that's going to be. Domino will be presenting on that one, and look forward to seeing everyone at that when we do it. All right. Have a good day.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Good day.